It really was no great loss to the world. And I think millions of people agree with that statement. Fred Goldman's words resonated with millions upon the death yesterday of acquitted double murderer and former football player and actor O.J. Simpson. He died of cancer, said to have been prostate cancer, and it was aggressive. He had been diagnosed with it a couple of months ago. Simpson was 76. The tabloids, like the Daily Mail, had their photographers running around taking pictures of him in his final months. He was a far cry from his younger, more violent and murderous days, barely able to move around. Before destroying his life and literally the lives of two other people, his former second wife, Nicole Brown, and an acquaintance of hers, Ron Goldman, who was merely at the wrong place at the wrong time, Simpson appeared to have it all. He set rushing records as a running back for the Buffalo Bills in the early 1970s. Hollywood beckoned, and although he wasn't much of an actor, he made a pile of money for his efforts. He might have been best known post-football days for his ads for Hertz Rent-A-Car, where he put his rushing abilities to good use, running around in airports, leaping over luggage and such. Simpson was well liked by many people who knew him or thought they did. He had a beautiful home in Brentwood, California. While he suffered tragedy in his early adulthood with having lost a child to drowning, he enjoyed the good life. After his divorce from his first wife, he married the much younger by 12 years Nicole Brown. As I recall, she had been a waitress at a restaurant when they first met. She was barely out of high school then, but O.J. saw potential to make her into his goddess. As Jeffrey Toobin, himself famous for exposing himself to all the world, or some of it at least, wrote, O.J. had paid for breast implants for all four of the Brown sisters, but none had ever, at least at the time he wrote it, had a college degree. O.J. was also very demanding and controlling. He always had been that way, but he was especially so with Nicole. The two had 2 children together, but O.J. continued to abuse her for years. One notable call from Nicole to 911 mentioned how he was going to beat the shit out of me. Simpson was known as a wife abuser to the cops, but they were so enthralled by his celebrity they did relatively little about it. As is all too often the case, such violent marriages or violent relationships involving exes end up in homicide. Nicole lost her life at the young age of 35 in June 1994, almost 30 years ago. Ron Goldman was only 25 and was merely being a good Samaritan by returning some sunglasses that had belonged to Nicole's mother, Judith Brown. Goldman came upon O.J. murdering Nicole, and of course O.J., whether strung out on drugs or not, had to kill the sole eyewitness. Given all of the Himalayan mountains of evidence, both physical and circumstantial, against Simpson, he got lucky. His murder trial, the trial that took a century, a few wags noted, came on the heels of the Rodney King case, and Simpson's acquittal was payback for what was done to King. Simpson's celebrity might have played a role, and the fact that Nicole was a white woman who had been married to a black man may have also played a role. Revenge for Rodney, though, was key. The jury deliberated only 4 hours, as I remember, after the trial had lasted well over a year, so their minds were made up from the beginning to acquit. O.J.'s cadre of defense lawyers, dubbed the Dream Team, pulled the race card by casting aspersions on one of the prosecution's star witnesses, Mark Furman. The defense tried to say one of those expensive gloves O.J. wore was planted, and then, in that infamous demonstration, Simpson claimed those gloves didn't fit. The prosecution, for their part, were not the best and the brightest, and they didn't introduce as evidence the obvious incidents of his guilt, specifically the slow-speed chase which was seen by millions of people on television. If Simpson had been innocent, he certainly wouldn't have engaged in such a drama. That alone pointed to his guilt. There were other blunders. In the end, though, that jury was not going to convict him no matter what. However, Simpson got sued in civil court and found responsible for the two murders. He was ordered to pay millions and millions of dollars in damages, but the family saw little of the money. The Goldmans did manage to wrest the publishing rights to O.J.'s novel of the killings, If I Did It. O.J. couldn't profit there. Moreover, Simpson did get in trouble with the law in an armed robbery case where he was attempting to recover memorabilia of his in Las Vegas. He was convicted of that crime and sentenced to 33 years in prison. He served 9 years for that crime in Lovelock, Nevada, before his release in 2017, and released from parole for good behavior in 2021. Presumably, he was still looking for the murderer or murderers of Ron and Nicole until cancer overtook him. However, on this day, we should remember Ron, Nicole, and their families, and not for the man who ruined lives. And Fred Goldman had this statement. This is just a reminder for us of how long Ron has been gone, how long we have missed him, and nothing more than that, Fred Goldman tells people. That is the only thing that is important today. It is the pain from then until now. There is nothing today that is more important than the loss of my son and the loss of Nicole. Nothing is more important than that. Fred Goldman was always tenacious in letting the public know just what Simpson was and what Simpson took from him and all of those who loved Ron and Nicole. At least he got to outlive his son's killer. And in this video, that's what I want to remember are the victims and the families, and not that damn murderer who walked free for too damn long. So anyway, this was a blog post I had written today, and so I just decided to read it and put my 2 cents worth on one of the most infamous cases in U.S. history. That is it.